we start? Hello, adventurers, and welcome to the first, maybe only, LARP event recap video. Today we're going to be talking about Menhir's Fate Event 1, which we've just come back from.
Yes.
That ended yesterday. And here to talk with me about it is my wonderful partner. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep. Hello, I'm Stephen Merryweather, and I've been LARPing for 2 years now.
Oh my god, it's been 2 years.
And for this event, I was playing the Sweet Smith, Hieronymus of the Hammerstadt Charter.
And if you've watched my creating a character video, you'll know that I was playing Saphira D. Setting Sun, the captain of a ship from the Republic of Portavus. If you haven't watched that video, you should probably go and watch it, because it was quite good, I think.
I think it was good. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. So, in that video I did go over a little bit about what Menhir's Fate is, but just in case you've come straight to this video, what is Menhir's Fate?
Yes, so Menhir's Fate is a fest LARP system, which is, it's essentially, it's not a LARP that's very small. I think we had about 1,000 people, but there are some fest LARPs that have up to 3,000-4,000 attendees now, and it tends to be a lot of collaboration work, lots of big battles, lots of people swinging swords around and hitting people a bit too hard, or and casting their magic spells.
Casting magic. It is important to note this is a very high fantasy game. So things like magic exists, religion exists, gods exist, which we will get into in a little bit.
Yes.
Which is right up my alley. I love high fantasy, so it was a really fun event for me in that regard.
So, should we talk about the actual event?
Let's talk about the game. We're not going to do a full recap of what happened play by play, because quite frankly, we don't have the time. But to give you a little flavour of what the game was like for us, we're going to go through roughly in chronological order and give our top 3 moments of the game.
Yeah. I also think it's really important to say that this was the first event of Menhir's Fate. So, at some points we will probably be talking about some of the less enjoyable moments and some of the things that probably do need to be fed back to and will be fed back to, that they can kind of bump up. But overall, we had a great time.
We had a wonderful
And then we will answer the big question at the end is, are we going to go back to Menhir's Fate 2 in early May, I believe it is.
May, yeah. I think it's the second weekend of May, so you'll have to stay tuned to the end of the video to find out that answer.
You will, yeah. That's how we catch you.
Yeah. So, I have my 3 moments ready. Do you have your 3 moments ready?
I have 3 moments ready, yes.
Do you have one from Friday?
One from Friday. I think from Friday we had a really good nation opening. So my nation, the Hammerstadt Charter, I've worn, the outfit for me with the lovely brocade. We are high fashion, but also very grungy at times. We're the innovators, the inventors, the creators. A lot of the inspiration for the Hammerstadt Charter came from things like Discworld and the cities of Ankh-Morpork. It's a city-state rather than a nation specifically, so it's a little bit Venice, but with a lot of magic, and everyone's part of a syndicate, which kind of also feels that grungy, underbelly, seedy feel of it. I'm part of the Wheat Sheaf syndicate because my character is a physician and an apothecary who makes healing sweets. So I had a lot of sherbet, different flavoured sherbet that I could give out when I was healing people. Very much a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down kind of character.
Very much so.
So yes, I think my top moment from Friday was meeting all of the rest of the nation, because we've been chatting online, but it's meeting them on the field, in person, having a bit of banter with them. Someone turned up with a song already written that we all sang together about the Rispetto Way, which essentially is a large, huge bridge that links 2 of the sections of the city together. Very old medieval style bridge, so one of those bridges that has buildings on top of it along the way, and 2 priests that live on that bridge that have a little shrine and are trying to build a bigger shrine as part of their goal. came in with a song that we all kind of joined together and sang. We introduced each other. We all kind of established who we are, what we want to do here. Because that's the thing, we didn't know anything. So we were very much going in blind, and I think that helped.
Very much so, yeah.
So what was your Friday top thing?
So we had a similar nation meet and greet, as it were, at the beginning. My favourite moment, however, came from just after that, when we started to hear whisperings of something interesting going down. So I was playing in the Republic of Portavus, which is the Hammerstadt Charter's neighbours.
Yep.
So
former members of the Hammerstadt
and former
Charter.
members. There's a whole history which I'm sure you can go and read about on the wiki if you're interested in that aspect.
The link is probably somewhere down
there.
there.
It'll be in the bio. And yes, we are a nation of seafarers, not pirates. We're not pirates. Don't let anyone call us pirates. But we are seafarers, we're explorers. We have a massive city called Alonzo, which is made up of different boats all lashed together to make this big, floating city. And we have a port town and lots of islands under our sort of banner. And my ship and my crew, we like to leave all that behind and we go out to the open ocean and we explore and we dig up interesting artifacts. So yes, that's Portavus. And after our little nation support opening of the event, just introducing themselves and a little bit of mingling between the crews, we started hearing some whisperings that, oh, the gods are here. Or rather, the aspects of the gods are here, because the gods are far too powerful to appear in their full form. But they have several different aspects. They come down to Haven, which is the name of the place that we were attending, and they just started mingling amongst us.
And I think the important part to notice there is that the gods had disappeared for about a year prior to this, just vanished. Which obviously caused a lot of problems and a lot of fear as this corruption is taking over the world. That's why we're there. We're there to fight the corruption and save the world. And the gods appearing, bringing us all together to start that challenge off.
Yes.
So we had two aspects of the gods that came straight to Hammerstadt. We had the smith, which obviously makes sense. We're the people that we're the innovators. But we also had the warrior aspect, who came in and asked for a bit of a challenge, a bit of a duel that a few of the members of the Hammerstadt took on. Which aspects did you have?
So we had the celebrant first and foremost, which I didn't see until a little bit later. But we did have someone come up to our group as we were mingling and saying, "The celebrant is nearby. Don't insult them." Because they were in a group who had inadvertently insulted them because the celebrant had come up to them, tankard in hand and a sun choker on, and had gone, "Oh, I suppose you know who I am. Who do you think I am?" And the whole group had no idea. And so the celebrant just went, "I'm the celebrant, have a nice night," and walked off.
Oh dear.
So that was a very fun introduction to the whole concept of the gods are here. I remember both in and out of character being very shocked in the moment of, what do you mean the gods are here? We've not seen them in a year. But actually, as it was explained to us, obviously Haven was made by the gods. It would make sense that they'd want to mingle amongst us and get to know the people that had come to this place to fight against the corruption with them.
Yes, and it seemed like everyone all of the aspects wanted to essentially detail what was going to happen over the weekend, which seemed like they corrupted under the banner of the Fallen, were trying to corrupt the Book of the Scholar, which would essentially heavily depower and almost kill the Scholar, which I don't think would have been a very good thing.
No, it would also have made an abstract event / ongoing event called the Fading much worse. The Fading is something that happened a little bit previous in the history of Alandra, which is the world that we are playing in, where knowledge from outside the uncorrupted zone and from before the corruption has kind of gotten a bit lost, and we don't know a lot of what has actually gone on in recent history.
Yes.
So this whole thing with the Book of Knowledge was supposedly going to make that a lot worse, because if the Book of all human knowledge gets corrupted, well, we're going to forget a lot of that knowledge. All that is a lot of waffle to say that my favourite moment from Friday is I was at camp with a few of the people that we were hanging out with, and the physician, which is an aspect of the hearth, walks over, and we give them hospitality, we sit them down, we give them, I believe they were offered some food by one of the people that we were grouped with, and they turn to me and they say, "Oh, I've got this cup, I believe I picked it up at the bar over there," and I was like, "Oh, would you like me to return it for you?" And they said, "Yes, please." So I walked over to the bar, I gave them the cup back, and when I got back to camp, the physician turns to me and hands me a card. I had gotten myself a boon, which allowed me to, for a year, once per event, I could heal someone back up to 3 hit points, because I'd been touched by the physician, who is obviously a healer. And I thought that was a really fun moment. It sort of kicked off the entire event as oh, this is an event where cool things are going to happen to everybody on the field, not just a select few.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that kind of set the scene for a lot of the event. I found that you couldn't sit in camp for about half an hour without some new crew member playing an NPC, or aspect of the god turning up, or someone quickly running in and saying that all of the street food has been taken over by the corrupted and we need to go and fight to bring it back, so otherwise all of Hammerstadt would starve, because Hammerstadt only survive on kebabs and sausages.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting and dynamic to have that kind of come in. And they also kind of changed it up so our camps wouldn't get raided, because camp attacks can happen and did happen frequently at the event. But they wouldn't attack an empty camp, because whoever is crewing that, or even the players that might be monstering at the time, wouldn't have very fun just wandering through an empty camp with no one to fight. And also, if there was only 2 or 3 people there, well, then they just steamroll through them, they'd die and feel a bit upset, and then they would just go away again. So they would always move it to the more populous nations, and where there's a lot more people, which I think was very, very good.
Morvala's got attacked a lot.
Yes, Morvala's got attacked, Cyrodinia got attacked. I think it's because they were very close to where the opening was.
Yeah, Cyrodinia got attacked a lot because they were directly between where the Out of Haven monstering hut was and the town centre, so very popular thoroughfare there.
Yes, definitely.
Do you have one from Saturday?
I have one from Saturday. I've got I think both of mine from Saturday, because Sunday wasn't as great for me, which we'll get onto in a little bit.
We'll get onto that in a little bit.
For my Saturday second fun thing, you were out monstering in the morning, because there were monstering slots throughout the day. So I was kind of wandering around Hammerstadt. We met with some people. We had a couple of raids from some bandits in Hammerstadt, where we very quickly worked out that we're not line fighters. We're not big enough to have a full kind of regiment line, but we can do small skirmishes, and when I could start healing people as we go down. I took an arrow to the shoulder, went down. That was quite fun. If you're hit by an arrow and you're not wearing heavy armor, that will instantly drop you to 0 hit points, and you will go into your critical state. Whereas where you will die in I think it's 120 seconds.
It's 2 minutes.
2 minutes, yes. Which is quite close to the wire when you're in a big battle.
Yes. But they did say going in they wanted these fights to feel quite brutal and to make it feel quite risky, which ties up to the whole theme of we are fighting back against an invading corrupted force.
Yes, yeah. But then I was approached along with a few other members of the charter after the night before, after I'd gone to bed. Someone had turned up from Morvalis. Morvalis is very much has a tentative alliance with Hammerstadt for a business relationship where they buy our dead. And we just take them down to a place called the Charnel Road, and they pick them up and take them off. But obviously to do that, you have to have a contract. and contracts are done through tattoos and also some signed contracts. And someone had offered to buy some bodies from 3 members of the charter without going through the proper channels, so big no-no with that. So we had 2 representatives from the Morvalian embassy, one from Hammerstadt and one from Morvalis, who came over and wanted to know a little bit more information. We then went over to Morvalis and ended up nipping back to the actual nation of Hammerstadt through magical teleportation, i.e. walking up a field. And went into an alleyway in the back of Hammerstadt, where we rewound time through help with the Reaper, and had a little bit of an investigation, found a body, went through things, and found that this person who had bought the body was actually just giving a down payment, killing them, and then taking the body away before their natural death comes, which obviously isn't great.
Not great, no.
So we went back after that, thinking that was kind of the end of it, because a lot of the times with previous LARPs, you go to one encounter, that's it. Not thought of anything that. But a little bit later in the day, I think afternoon, they returned. The two ambassadors from the embassy came back and said, right, something else has happened now. We've got another, there's been another kind of fissure, another portal that we can travel through. And we went off and fought some actual, some zombies, some Hammerstadt zombies. So while the Morvalians, who specialised in this kind of death magic, were talking to the dead after we had dispatched them properly.
Of course.
Brief fight, not the most intensive fights. There was 15 of us and there was about 4 fantastic players who were monstering. Did so well with being a dead zombie. I fought one who was just kind of like it's almost felt like his tendons he had nothing in his arms, and was very easy to put down. We then went into the lair of this person and did a bit more investigation. I found a chest and I was like, well, I'm going to have a little look in it. Maybe there's like a letter or maybe something else. No, there was 3 myths, which is quite a lot of money for the first event. You start with a maximum of 4 myths or 2 myths and your resource.
Yes.
So then we did that. We went back. The following day, obviously, it was all tied up with this big battle, which we'll get onto in a little bit. But we were put onto Retainer again, which was going to continue through E2. So that's why I liked that, because it meant that this is an ongoing plot. It has a structure. It's almost like a 3-act structure where we had this first act of investigation, or the inciting incident of the bodies, the selling. They still want that, the money from that, which they're not going to get. Then we had the investigation for the first act, the little battle in the second one, and I think in our second event, there's going to be a huge scrap between an army of undead and an army of Hammerstatters and Morvalians, which should be quite fun. Where we're going to see off this naughty body snatcher.
That does sound fun.
Yeah, and I got another myth out of it, so I made 4 myths, which is again, what you would start with if you were just choosing the money option.
So you even got a lot of money at this event.
I'm rich.
I am not. Now, my second top 3 moment is from Saturday evening. So is yours from before that? Or is yours
Mine's from before that.
No.
We're going 1, 1, 1, 1, 1.
Okay. So my second top 3 moment from this event, broadly, was a festival that was put on in the nation of Portavus called the Festival of Salt, which basically turned into a bit of a potluck, sing-song, and I believe there's some stories and some dancing going on as well. It's a nice big festival. I'll link the page down in the description if you want to have a read of the actual reason why we were celebrating, because honestly I can't remember. But it was a very, very nice time. The friends that we had sort of based with at camp, they made a lovely vegan paella that was incredibly
fantastic,
very incredible. And for me, this was quite a significant event because I have always wanted to be a bard at these events. And the Festival of Salt gave me the opportunity to perform more than I have in any other LARP event, and probably all of the other LARP events I've been to combined. Which was really cool for me. It's definitely something I want to be practicing more and doing more at the second event when we get to go and do that.
Honestly, I'm gutted that I missed most of the Festival of Salt because I was off.
You were
that was
very
when I was
busy.
doing the mini drudge encounter. They're not zombies, they're drudges, I think is the official term.
Swings and roundabouts.
Yeah. Zombies is easy to remember.
It's easy to convey as well. Everyone knows what a zombie is.
Yes. But I did kind of catch the tail end and saw a little bit of it. I think it's fantastic that you got to actually do something that you wanted to do for so long. Didn't the celebrant come?
Yes, so the celebrant was walking around, was mingling. I'd had to leave after the whole big sea song performance. Yeah. And when I came back, I was told by our friend that the celebrant was around. They're really sad that they'd missed our performances, but that they really wanted me to sing for them again.
That was very good.
Which was very good, very shocking, but it was a calmer atmosphere. Said friend had sat down with a group of other people and was playing liar's dice with them. I believe they came third overall, which was good for them.
Yeah.
And as it was a calmer atmosphere, I started singing one of my calmer songs, and the celebrant heard me, came over, sat down right in front of me, put their head in their hands, and just watched as I finished the song. Asked me to explain the song a little further after I'd finished, and then said, "Can I give you a hug?" To which I very heartily said, "Yes, of course, celebrant, of course you can give me a hug." And that was a really, really nice moment for me. Very affirming as well.
That's brilliant. I think it's part of the way the game's structured as well, is that the threads, the nation support, are writing the plot as well, alongside the aspects and all the NPCs. So maybe that is going to generate some kind of plot for you in the future.
Yeah.
Because the celebrant may have gone over to one of the threads and said, "Who's that?" Taken down the names and worked it out. I had a wonderful time with our threads. We had some very funny threads. We had the beer baron, who at one point collapsed because there was such a problem going on with the world that they collapsed in pain, and then was so shocked that he asked for water rather than beer. That's how sick he was.
That's how sick he was. Wow.
But they were so intrinsic in getting everyone involved, bringing people together for the elections, and just generally watching as well as kind of, pushing people to do something.
Yes.
And I think that was really good.
Yeah, I think our nation support were really good as well. I don't think from the sounds of it, they weren't quite as involved, but then Portavas is a slightly bigger nation than the Hammerstadt Charter is.
So Hammerstadt, we think we had around just under 40. I think Portavas had about...
It was over 60, because we had 60 people turn up to the monstering slot and not everyone wants to monster. So we definitely had over 60 people turn up, which is wild.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
What was your last
My last one?
moment?
Let's have a think. I think my last one was just kind of Saturday in general. I was so busy... Busier than I've ever been in any of the LARPs I think I've done previously put together, because I met with a few people in the morning and we were just kind of discussing some trade games, because I'm always quite interested in the economic side of the game, and making a little bit of money, because the more money I can make, the more money can go back into the nation itself and also support any fun things that you're doing, that the Setting Sun is doing, because a lot of the time money does make the world go round. So I went out with my essences and my flickers and sold all of them. I swapped my essences for entry into the Treasure Hunters Guild.
It's worth mentioning that essence and flicker are different types of crystallized magic.
Yes.
It's a resource that allows you to make things.
Yes. So flickers are very much used in apothecary and in weavings, aren't they?
Yes, they're used to extend rights
Yes.
and give them extra things that they can do.
And myself and 3 others went around with all of our flickers and made, because it was the first event, we were able to kind of dictate the price a little bit and make it fair for what people would be wanting to pay. We weren't going to, gouge money out of people, but we also wanted to make sure we got a fair price for it.
Yes, absolutely.
So we put an arbitrary number on it, and we would haggle and happily. If someone needed it for cheaper, honestly, I'd give it to them for cheaper. I'd give it them to free, really, if they wanted, because if my fun of trading is going to stop them from having fun by making what they need to make, that's a bad thing for me. Mm-hmm. I would rather say, yeah, of course, tell you what, you do this, and then let's have a little favour next time, or if I need a potion, I can come to you and you can help me with that. And that's a little bit more interesting game and developing connections like that. So I ended up making... I paid for my entry to the Adventurers Guild, which honestly was the biggest waste of money because I didn't do a single adventure.
Maybe next event.
Yeah, maybe next event, but I didn't go on an adventure for this time around. However, I did go and fund a building. So at the bank, if you want to propose a building, for example, I want to build one of the jokes of Hammerstadt, were that we were going to build a bridge between Hammerstadt and Portovus's main city on Port Revesso.
Port Revesso, yes.
And put a drawbridge on it so the ships can get out, but the drawbridge is only controlled by our side, so we could toll them as we go past. We obviously didn't do that, but if we wanted to do that bridge, we could go to the bank, ask to speak with the bank manager, and set up that, and then they would print out a really nice looking piece of paper, which if I can scan it in, I'll put it there. And then they'd give you a cost. So I found a project that only required 2 myths, very little amount of money, for an everlasting dew everglade in the smaller areas of Hammerstadt, a perfect place for me as a sweetsmith to go and collect sweet dew that I can then use for my sweets. That's how I was justifying it. And I looked at it and thought, well, I could fund that myself. So I just went in. No one else had put any money towards it, so it's officially mine.
It's yours, yeah.
And I don't think it has any mechanical benefits to the game. I guess I'll find out in the next one.
Yeah.
But if it does, brilliant. That's something for the nation of Hammerstadt. If it doesn't, then brilliant. That's
Bragging
something
rights.
for me.
Yeah.
So I made that money, and then I still ended up with an awful lot of money. Plus, I ended up with another resource from some of my travels. And I think that was the most fun going round. And there was a few people that hadn't been part of the trading game or hadn't been interested, but got interested in it when we were discussing the prices, going round, meeting with people. And that kind of slowly built into quite a nice little group for us to go around, rather than us being in the same coterie or like group, like just like the ship, ships and trading house in Portovus, as we have coteries. It was nice to just have friends that you could just wander the field, meet people as well, see what they're looking at, what their prices are, and kind of match it up.
Yes.
And then we can hopefully then start ratcheting up the prices next time.
Yeah. Because the trading game was something you really wanted to get into at the last game we went to. And so it's really nice to see you be able to fill that niche here. Because the issue with we're not going to go too much into the last game we went into, because that's not the purpose of this video, but it was a much larger event and there wasn't quite as much going on for the individual player as there was at this event. And from an outside perspective, it's really nice seeing you get to flourish and blossom in that role, and to see you be able to do the things that you've wanted to do since we started LARPing.
Definitely, yeah, and I really enjoyed it, and I think as well, because it's the first one, there wasn't as many people there, and resources are scarce. Resources, there are no extra resources. You get 1 faith. There's only 1,000 people. That's 1,000 faith. So you'd need a 5th of that to fund our wonderful shrine in Hammerstadt. And then I also got to do a lot of physicianing I got to do a lot of healing. There were many camp attacks, particularly in the evening. There was a string of raids, one after the other, with lots of people going down and people needing healing at all times. I think in total I healed 7 people in the space of the Morvalis Cyrodinia raid and the Portobus raid.
Wow.
Healed
Which is a lot.
Yes, yeah. Because each time you heal, it requires 1 minute of role play, and then as an advanced physician, I can get them up to full hit points. Or I could kill them.
Or you can kill them.
I can execute them. So if I want to be a little sneaky, if I don't like them, I can. But no.
Can you do that for monsters as well, or is that just players?
Yes, I can do it for anyone.
Oh.
Which is, you do sometimes get some monsters pretending to be players and then healing them and getting that up. So just be aware of that if you do come to these events. Sometimes people are naughty. So yeah, that's it.
So my last top 3 moment is from Sunday. It's from Sunday morning, actually. And it's not the big battle, although
we'll talk about the big battle.
We'll talk about the big battle a little bit, but so the friends that we were with were predominantly Oracle Weavers. So all 4 of them in the group had at least 1 level in Weaving, which is the big ritual magic system, and Oracle is one of the spheres that involves divination, farseeing, things like that.
Very similar to what an ancient Greek oracle.
Yes, very similar to that. And they decided that over the weekend their big goal was to do a weaving, which is a bit like a rite, except it's at the Menhir. There are visual effects, there are sound effects. It's really cool. And they decided to do this weaving around the monolith spires that are found all around Port Rovesso. They're these big, I think they're dark stone, perfectly cut spires that came up out of nowhere. I think there's some weird writing on them. We don't know what they are. There's little to no information about them at all. And being Oracle Weavers that are interested in artifacts and magical items, they decided they were going to do a weaving to glean some information about these spires. And they went about this by asking for the people of Rovesso to have dreams to glean this information. I don't want to go too much into the plot because it's not really my story to tell. It had some interesting outcomes. We looked into the eye of the storm and it looked back. Or it didn't want to be looked at, rather. But even though I wasn't taking part in the weaving, it was a very incredible thing to witness. I think the tech behind the system is unlike anything I've ever seen in a LARP. The dedication of every single weaver, every single player involved in that interaction was wonderful. The roleplay was incredible, and I think seeing a weaving reminded me why I wanted to be a weaver in the first place. And yeah, it had some very fun after effects. And then we all went off to the big battle, and they all had to do that with massive headaches. Yep. Because that's what they got from the weaving.
Yep.
So yeah, that was my last top 3 moment.
Yeah, I think the weaving game is something that's it's the intrinsic main thing, main design thing. It's what the Menhir is. So if you don't know what a Menhir is, Stonehenge is a Menhir.
Big stone.
Yeah, it's a big stone in the centre of that. This is a big magic stone.
Big magic stone, yes.
And then, of course, because it's called the Menhir, there were so many jokes throughout the thing of,
there
are men here?
I sure hope there are.
Exactly.
So, should we talk a little bit about what went well?
Yes, we can talk about what went well.
I think my biggest takeaway of what went well at this weekend is just how dedicated the crew, the staff, the NPCs, and the directors and the skirmish teams were. Every single person who was helping to run this event gave it their all, and they were very good at what they did.
I agree with that. Every single person was giving 100% to the point where on Sunday at Monstering, the skirmish captains, all the crew, who I believe they started with 50 and they were down to 20 on the last day because they were that exhausted.
Oh my goodness.
But they'd wrenched their voices out, kind of, you know, screaming and shouting and going, those kind of things. But they were still, in that final battle, giving everything they could, running, charging straight into what was essentially an unwinnable fight for the fallen on the fields. And then just going back, respawning, going straight back in. The stamina shown throughout was impressive.
So good.
I think for me, what went well, the design of the game, the busyness, obviously, that we mentioned before, where you're constantly on a swivel, like you know that something's going to get attacked, and then you kind of look over and think, oh well, the other side of the field's getting attacked. By the time I get there, it's already finished with, so I'm not going to run over, but I'll kind of wander over just in case anyone needs healing.
Yes.
And that also shows the dedication of the other LARPers, is that we're all ready for a scrap and we're all ready to kind of jump in with things, but we're also making sure that we're not going to burn ourselves out.
Yeah. I think we also have to give our flowers to just the player base as well.
Yeah.
I had so much fun being a player monster with the rest of our nation, and I also had so much fun going up against player monsters, to the point where it was hard to tell who was skirmish team and who was a player monster, because everyone was just giving it their all.
Yeah.
And the biggest takeaway from the player base for me is that no one took the game overly seriously. Everyone sort of leaned into silly aspect of the hobby, and
they leaned into the fantasy aspect. This isn't a dark, grungy Game of Thrones style world. It's a world at war.
Yes.
And a world in trouble, but there's light, there's colour still in the world. We're not all just wearing black and being miserable. And I think even everyone on the field was there to try and kind of jump into the game. I think some people may have, jumped in, focused on themselves a little bit, but that's them. And perhaps that will change between events, and they might reevaluate what they're looking at, and if they're if they're focused on the nation's progress and on Haven's progress, or if they're focused on their own progress, and that's the difference there.
Yeah.
I've already got some plans for the future events to cause a little bit of mischief.
Yes.
Yep, I'm gonna try and I'm never gonna do it in a malicious way.
No.
I'm gonna just be a bit.
It's
silly.
Mischievous rather than evil.
Yeah. So I think that definitely went well. I think the ethos of the ideas with the banks and not having a general god system was overall pretty good.
Yeah.
After the first day, which we'll get onto in a little bit, I'm sure.
I do think the bank shone in the little interactions, like funding projects.
Yes.
And things like that. Obviously, we'll get onto what didn't quite go so well in a minute. Continue.
Yeah, and I liked the idea of the guilds. While I think the event, the guilds, again, they could have had a bit more guild stuff, but that's just planning and the availability of crew, probably.
Yes.
But they were always quite interesting. Entering the guild with a treasure hunting task was quite fun. You have to complete a quest to enter it. You have to prove yourself, rather than just here's some money, pay up.
Yeah.
I like that every nation has a different kind of way of electing. For example, Portavas, everyone gets a vote.
Everyone gets a vote in Portavas, and we stand behind the electee that we want to vote for. And
in Hammerstadt, it is one vote. The way Hammerstadt votes is that whoever's running puts a hat out, and then each coterie puts a single saga, which is the lowest quality, a penny, into the hat of the person they want to be that nation's representative for that particular role, and then whoever wins keeps the sagas. So you're still giving away a saga regardless, and that is kept by them in in terms of campaign costs
Yes.
and bribes and various other things.
Helps them get off the ground with whatever they're trying to do.
But I think and in each coterie having a vote rather than each individual having a vote is good economically. We're not all just going to be incredibly poor by the end of it and have two people very rich because of that. It also stops block voting, so if we get a coterie of 20 people coming in going, I'm the biggest coterie in Hammerstadt, we're all the best people ever, and then going in and saying like, oh, I'm gonna be this hat, this person's gonna have this one, this gonna have that, and why? Because we have all of the votes. So I think that's a really good way of keeping that nipped in. Thankfully, we were a very close nation. I don't think we didn't really have an antagonistic relationship with anyone other than jokingly calling the worst breakable team the worst breakable team.
But they are kind of the worst.
They were relegated last season. So they're the best in their league of one. And yeah, that's what went well with me. The game itself went well.
Yes, I heavily concur with that. Everything in the game itself was an absolute joy to be a part of.
Yes.
Genuinely the most fun I've had at LARP since I started.
And and the fact that we're so exhausted and still filming this the day after shows that how committed we are to really pushing and showing how good this was.
Absolutely. So, it's time for constructive criticism time. What do we think could be improved? I'm going to let you start.
Yeah.
Because I think you have a lot of points and I think we agree on a lot of points. But if I have anything I'd like to interject, I will.
It was the first event.
It was.
And I will give so much leeway because it's the first event. There were a lot of logistical and communication issues.
Yes, there were.
We weren't told certain things with enough time. You have to consider that there is 1,000 people on the field. Not everyone is on the Discord and the Facebook groups. Not everyone has access to their phone on these events. And the communication was lacking somewhat.
Just a little bit.
And we've all got a lot of gear. We've got bell tent, stove, matting, sleeping stuff, sleeping bed, kit, your kit, my kit, swords, everything.
A lot of stuff.
And that's everyone else who's joining as well on that Thursday. And there just wasn't any communication as to what happened. Then we get on the field, and we're not allowed to drive our cars onto the OC field, but they're allowed to drive it onto the IC field, which again just doesn't make sense.
A bit of a disparity. That was something that wasn't changed by the end of the event, but people were driving onto the OC field because, again, just because we're camping out of character doesn't mean we don't have the same amount of heavy stuff as someone who's camping in character.
Yeah.
And it was still a long way at the end of a very tiring weekend to have to carry your things.
And particularly, I picked up an injury on the Sunday fight. I was monstering and someone didn't pull their blows. In fact, quite a lot of people didn't pull their blows. One of our group as well literally stopped roleplay and said straight to someone, that was too hard, in the middle of the big fight. I get it. There were a lot of new players and that's great, that's fine. There were a lot of experienced players as well not pulling their blows. I think as well, people seem to forget when you're fighting someone, that is still a real person you're fighting.
Yes.
That is still gonna hurt them if you whack them with a giant sword on the shoulder, which is what happened to me. And that put me out for the entire weekend. That was my weekend finished after that Sunday fight. Halfway through the fight, around about 12:30, with 2.5 hours left of game to do, I was done because I was so injured.
We did end up leaving an hour early because Stephen couldn't handle it anymore.
So I do think people do need to be very careful. If you're not confident about pulling your blows with a giant weapon like a giant two-handed claymore, you should not be using it.
And I think this is an issue that is a little bit more widespread than just at Menhir's Fate. But I think with Menhir's Fate being such a new event, there is wiggle room to try and crack down on that, whether that is making things like weapon competency as well as bow competency be a thing.
Yeah.
And if if you're a new player and you're planning to fight at an event, you need to have some sort of stamp on your passport to say that you should be doing what you're meant to be doing to keep everyone safe.
Going back to the logistics, there were only 3 food vendors.
For a field of about 1,000 people, including crew.
Yeah. Which isn't enough. There weren't enough toilets.
There weren't enough showers. The bins were changed fairly regularly, and I highly commend them for that.
The toilets were cleaned.
They had water all weekend, which does not feel like it should be a thing that we should applaud. However, it is not something that is common in the last event that we went to. Yeah. So that was a very nice touch. They also had lighting in both the in-character and out-of-character fields that were provided by the crew, which was very nice.
This is also, it wasn't much of a problem for us in Portal vs Hammerstack because of where we were located on the camp. But those in the nations on the opposite side of the wheel, so that would be Valdraith, Avaro, the Wonder, had no water taps on their side of the field.
So they had to walk all the way to our side. So potentially...
I get that's a logistical problem with the actual location, but it's still not great.
It's not great. Potentially adding some drinking water butts on that side and covering them with a bit of Hessian sacking would be
just some
sort
small,
of solution to that.
And a huge problem was on Friday we lost an hour in the queue for the bank.
So instead of having a centralised out-of-character game desk, like a lot of systems do with a god tent, Menhir's Fate is all in character, which meant that we couldn't pick up our player packs, like our resources and our money, until time in, which meant that on Friday there was just a massive queue for the bank because everyone wanted their money, everyone wanted their essence, their flicker, because they couldn't do anything without it, really. You couldn't do any enchanting, any weaving without these things.
Yeah.
So we spent an hour in the queue for the bank, and unfortunately that took me out of the game for the rest of Friday evening.
Yeah. And that it kind of just felt... It's a great system in theory, really interesting, and when it was quiet, it was really fun to go in and deal with things, but it was just not right for the start of the event, and it should have been open beforehand to collect it. And it was open briefly, but then it closed for about 4 hours, and there was no way of getting your resources. I understand they were saying, well, you don't need to collect your resources then, but what if I wanted to make a potion? Yeah. What if there was a weaving that needed to be done, or a handsaw that needed to be done? Yeah. It just needed improvement.
But that is something that can be easily changed for the next event, though.
Yes.
I understand what they were going for with it, and when it worked well, it was fantastic. On Friday evening, it did not work well, and I think that's a known issue, and we do kind of know why it happened that way.
Yes, because everyone was on the field trying to shepherd the cars in.
Yes, at least that's what we've heard.
I think, as we're saying here, none of these issues are things that can't be fixed.
No.
Communication can be improved.
Yes.
Toilets can be arranged.
Yes.
Showers can be arranged.
Yes.
The field can rotate round, so Hammerstack isn't on that side, and Valdraith and Avaro are on the other side.
Yeah.
And more food vendors can be done.
Yes.
I think it will also increase the amount of in-character food people that just go, okay, well, I'm just going to set up a big stew pot and sell it for a couple of sagas per bowl, which would be great. Increase the economy, keep things going.
I didn't feel like I had anything to spend my money on, so it would be nice to see more icy businesses pop up.
One of the other issues I had was our monstering slot was meant to be 10 o'clock on Sunday. And we arrive at 10 o'clock in the monstering kit only to be told that it's been pushed back an hour. Now, I get that's so logistically the big final battle could take place, and that they could then combine us with the other nation Avaro and then do a much bigger, much cooler battle, which I'm sure those fighting in it really did have a good time. I wasn't part of it.
It was great fun.
Because
really
I was controlling a horde of drudge zombies.
Yep.
Taking out as many people as possible. But because of that, I had to go and get my kit on, spend 30 minutes doing role play, and then go out on Monster. And that kind of just took things out. It essentially just took over Sunday.
Which, again, boils down to a communication issue. Because apparently it was posted in the Discord, but as we were getting ready, we weren't looking at our phones. When we were in the icy field, we weren't looking at our phones.
We were told in the Discord 14 minutes before 10 o'clock, before time in. And that's not enough, because most of us would already been over at that 10.
Yeah.
Because we were all keen to get in, to go on Monster and get into a scrap.
Yeah.
And we did quite well.
Yeah. It was great fun fighting against Hammerstadt.
Yeah.
It was great fun.
Yeah.
Again, none of these issues are things that can't be solved.
Yeah.
They're not intrinsic issues with the game design, so hopefully going forward to M2 and beyond, these things will start to change and we'll see a real positive progression with the system. Right, with that, shall we head into our final thoughts
Yeah,
and
let's
wrap
head
this
into the
up?
final thoughts.
And I think the most pressing question is, are we going back? Are we going to M2?
Yeah, right.
Oh, thank goodness. I'm so glad you said yes, because I'm going back and I can't take the bell tent on public transport.
Yes. No, we are absolutely going back. I'm going to go and get my ticket as soon as we finish recording this, just so that it's done. But we can't wait to go back. I'm really excited to see where some of those like stories that we had earlier, like the Body Snatcher. I want to see how that goes.
Yes.
And I want to get myself involved in as much as I can. Maybe do something with the treasure hunters.
Yeah, I want to go on a quest next time, and I want to do more magic next time.
Yeah, definitely.
There's so much we didn't get to do.
Yeah, exactly. I want to develop more healing suites with my new dew garden.
Yes, yeah.
And I think, that's what we need to do.
Yeah. I'm so excited at the potential that this system has, and I'm so excited to see where it goes. And honestly, I'm already at the point where I want to go back so I can see my friends again.
Yeah. And I think with that, that's the perfect time to leave off.
Yeah.
So we'll say goodbye. It's been lovely chatting to you today.
Yeah, thank you
Ella.
for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me, Stephen.
Anytime. So I guess, I've been Stephen Merryweather. I'm also the Sweetsmith.
And I've been Ella. You can also call me Aspen. Thank you so much for joining us and listening to us waffle about this wonderful, wonderful game that we've started playing. And we'll see you soon. Bye.
See ya.